Welcome back into the channel, everybody. And as I stated in the previous video, we're doing two franchises here on the channel. And as you all know, I'm a Pittsburgh fan. And the second franchise we're doing here on MLB The Show 19, in conjunction with our A's franchise, is a Pittsburgh Pirates franchise. Now, this one is not designed to be generally realistic or anything necessarily like that. I will try and play it realistic to the best of my abilities, but what this is going to be, or at least I hope for it to be, is for this to kind of be a what I believe the Pirates should do or should have done in certain scenarios with certain players in order to move forward and get back on the right track. And that kind of involves some player moves and everything like that. And I haven't necessarily made those moves yet because I want to kind of get feedback from you guys on where you think specific players should go. But one of those moves that I think that the Pirates should have made a long time ago, and I still think that they should make, is I think that they should move on from a guy like Gregory Polanco or something like that. In addition, I think that they should consider moving on from Francisco Cervelli and Elias Diaz as their catchers. I also believe that they should add to their bullpen. I believe that there are a couple other moves that the team should make, such as potentially moving Jung-Ho Kang to shortstop as opposed to playing third base, because when he played shortstop, he was phenomenal as a shortstop. And then he got hurt, and they decided to move him back to third base so he wouldn't get hurt. So this is just the thing. These are the things that are going on in my mind whenever I'm doing this Pittsburgh Pirates franchise, and I'd like you guys' feedback to determine where I should send specific guys, who I should get to replace them, what I should do in terms of things like a position move with Jung-Ho Kang, for example. So with all that being said, describing what this franchise specifically is meant to be, I want to get you guys in and have you meet the team. So first and foremost, as we did in the other video, we're going to start and show you guys the pitching staff. Now, the Pirates have a very good pitching staff, great potential across the board, and I think that this is really the strength of the team, as is evidenced by the current state of the MLB, where the Pirates are one of the top teams in ERA, and they're playing very well pitching-wise. So, to start out with, they obviously have Chris Archer, who they traded for last year. He is their ace. He has a pretty good ERA, and I'm going to play him that way, that he is currently the ace. I'm going to play Jameson Taillon as the 2, but he should take over that ace spot if he continues to develop the way that the Pirates expect him to. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with these two as my top 2 pitchers. Now, beyond that, I believe both Trevor Williams and Joe Musgrove have kind of proven themselves to be valid MLB starters in this league, and they do have a lot of potential still left in them, and they're young, so they have room to grow still. So I think I'm comfortable with both of them as my 3 and 4 pitchers. So I think the top 4 are pretty locked down. I think there's not much question there. Now, there is a little bit of question in terms of the 5th pitcher on this team. I'm not really sure what they're going to do long term in terms of the 5th pitcher on the team, but I believe in my mind that the 5th pitcher on this team should be potentially Nick Kingham, but I don't know that they're ever going to call him up, or I mean not ever, but I don't know that they're going to call him up anytime soon, because they have players vying for that spot like Chad Kuhl, who are decent starters and have room to grow. And that's the strength of this team is, when your biggest problem with the pitching staff is a bunch of guys with really good potential vying for the 5th starter spot, that's a good problem to have. Now, the Pirates have other guys down in the system that could potentially take over that spot. Mitch Keller, who I believe has a lot of potential to grow quickly and take over that spot. And then beyond Nick Kingham, they have other guys down in the system like Luis Escobar and a couple of other guys. And then we went ahead and we cleared out some of the older guys and some of the excess guys, because we would have ended up with a ton of people in the single A, and there's not really even a single A team, so those players don't progress. So we cleared out a ton of those players, grouping them together to trade for slightly better players. So we have some decent B potential type guys down here in the double A that could eventually develop into something and play for this team. So not much of note there. The pitching rotation is what it is, and I don't plan on making a ton of moves there unless you guys, the viewers, decide that we should make a move specifically. I play pretty well with most of these guys, so I think that we will have a good time with the starting pitching staff. Now, in terms of the bullpen is predicted to be one of the strong points of this team. I feel as though, however, the Pirates bullpen could use some improvement, and that's how I felt going into this season, and they've kind of proven that this far. I'm not sure some of these players deserve the ratings that they've been given, like Richard Rodriguez. He's been pretty good in the past, but this year he's kind of hurting. I don't want to say hurting, but he's kind of struggling a little bit. But nonetheless, he is an 85 of B potential, still 29 years old, so should be around for a while. And we have some really good players in this bullpen. Keone Kela is a very good reliever, a guy that was a closer whenever he came over to the Pirates, and I plan to lock him up for a long time. And then we have a couple good guys with good potential still in room to grow in Kyle Crick and Edgar Santana. And then the bottom end of our bullpen is rounded out by Tyler Lyons and Michael Feliz, who are both solid in their own right. They're kind of average relievers, slightly above average, and I'm okay with that. You're not going to have a perfect bullpen, obviously. And then kind of the weakness of their bullpen right now has been Francisco Liriano. Francisco Liriano hasn't turned out to be the acquisition that they thought he would be. He's a shell of himself whenever he was actually with the Pirates the first time, but I plan to use him in this franchise because I want to see what he's made of. I want to see if we can do anything good with him. And I think that we can. So we might be able to get Francisco Liriano, a good competitive season in. So I'm hoping to be able to utilize him. But I am looking to potentially add to this bullpen. One really strong extra arm would help do it, and that might be the trade that we make with Gregory Polanco or Francisco Cervelli. We might deal away one of them to add a really strong arm to the bullpen. We'll see. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think about that, what you think we should do in terms of adding to this team or potentially trading away those guys that I think the Pirates should move on from that are failing to develop or failing to be exactly what they want them to be. Then moving on, obviously, they have Felipe Vasquez. Felipe Vasquez is just a phenomenal closing pitcher. Very good velocity, very good control, very good break. Just really, really good. One of the best in the league. 27 years old, is going to prove to be a very good starter, or a very good closer for a long time. We don't have a lot in terms of depth here that could potentially come up and replace him, but we don't necessarily need it. And going back to the release part, we do have a little bit of depth that could potentially develop into something and play for this bullpen with some low 60s and 50 players, that have B potential that could potentially come up. And at the bottom end, we do have quite a few B potentials, but they're a little older, so they don't have a ton of room to grow. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody could really step up and develop and come up and play at an MLB level. It'll be interesting to see that if we choose to not add anybody or if we choose to just go with these guys, if they could potentially develop into something that would be useful. Then moving over to the catcher position, obviously, like I said, Francisco Cervelli, he's an 80 overall. I mean, he's a solid player, but as you can see, he doesn't do any one thing particularly well. He has decent contact, decent power, and decent defensive stats, but he's not... he's not a cornerstone necessarily, and I think the Pirates have been looking for a cornerstone at catcher for a long time, and they have failed to find it. They thought Jacob Stallings would be that guy, but obviously he's not that great because OSFM gave him a 60 overall with deep potential, and he's failed to come up and do anything. Elias Diaz even surpassed him and is now playing in the MLB, where Jacob Stallings should have been a couple years ago, honestly. So we are going to look to try and do something at catcher and find like a cornerstone player at catcher. I don't know if that means dealing away Francisco Cervelli. He is, a hot commodity. Catcher is a highly valued position, and even though he's a little bit older and he's an 80 overall, he's significantly more valuable than some other positions, so we might be able to get a good return from him, and maybe trading away our other guys, we might be able to get a decent catcher in return, or somebody with really good potential that could take over. I wish that Elias Diaz would have better potential, because I think he has better potential than what the game gives him. He's a 75, 28 years old with C potential, but a pretty good defensive catcher with a really good arm. All he has to do is work on his bat a little bit, and he could be a really good starting catcher in the MLB. And I think he'll make a jump this year playing for the Pirates. And I think that the other problem is that he doesn't play enough because of the fact that they have Cervelli, and that limits their ability to develop Elias Diaz the way that they need to. And so that's part of the reason why I think that the Pirates should move on from Cervelli, is because right now they could get a good return from him while they still can, and they could give Elias Elias Diaz most of the reps and give him a true opportunity to develop into that cornerstone catcher for the franchise. With that being said, we'll move on to first base. And Josh Bell, obviously the guy that was supposed to have a ton of potential at first base, playing a lot better this year than he did last year already, so he might get an upgrade soon in terms of potential from the guys that are making the roster. But as of right now, he's a 75 overall with B potential, only 26 years old, so a little bit of room to grow. And he should turn into a really good bat. Not a great defensive player, but I mean, he's only playing first base, so not a big deal, but should turn into a very good bat for us. And I think I'm comfortable sticking with him at first base. I actually play pretty well with him. Moving on to second base, Adam Frazier has a ton of potential. I'm surprised that they only gave him a B potential, but a very, very good bat. A guy that a lot of people talk about even potentially being able to win a batting title. Only 27 years old, a 77 overall. Decent defensive player, but a very good bat. Guy that I want to have in the lineup constantly. And then good depth at the position with Kevin Kramer looking to push that position. 71 overall, 25 years old with B potential. Very good defensive player, good bat. A guy that could potentially push his way up to the majors in short order. Now at third base, we have obviously Jung-Ho Kang, and he's an 87, 31 years old, B potential. The game gave him a really good rating here as an 87. He's got really good power, really good contact. He's a really good fielder, and this is part of why I think that he should move to shortstop. Now, I'm starting to rethink that decision because I thought they would give Colin Moran a better overall. Colin Moran's got a really good bat. And he's a decent defensive player, but they didn't give him a very good overall, and I'm not sure that I want to bring him up to the MLB just yet. But once he is ready, or Ke'Bryan Hayes is ready to play third base, Jung-Ho Kang would fit right in at shortstop with all of those really good stats right there. But with all that being said, we go ahead and look at shortstop, and I moved Kevin Newman from second base to shortstop, which is one of his other positions. And I feel like he fits best at shortstop. He has phenomenal fielding abilities for a very young guy at only 25 years old. He's a 71 and has A potential, which means he could be really, really good. He has good speed, good contact. I feel like this guy could be a very productive player and turn into an all-star for this team. So I'm going to currently roll with him at shortstop and Jung-Ho at third base. I'm going to allow some of these guys in the minors to develop the way that they will develop, and we will go from there. But I really think Kevin Newman will turn into something good. And the infield looks really good set up the way that it is. Now, in real life, the Pirates are playing Eric Gonzalez at shortstop. I don't agree with that decision at all. I don't think he's that good. And that's why I moved Kevin Newman from second base to shortstop and moved him up to the MLB. Now, that's the main theory behind this decision is they need somebody good to play shortstop, and they haven't had that for a while. Jordy Mercer was a decent defensive player, maybe above average defensive player, but he wasn't a very good bat. He wasn't as good defensively as some people thought that he was, and they've never really had that really good shortstop to play that position, and I think Kevin Newman could be that guy. I think Jung-Ho Kang could be that guy. This is currently what we'll roll with the way that it is now, but we might switch it around later on. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think we should do between the shortstop position, second base, third base. What exactly you think we should do with those positions. So with that, we move on to the last part of the team, which is the outfield. And the outfield is pretty set between Corey Dickerson at left field with some decent prospects here behind him. But most of the good prospects are behind Starling Marte, our true franchise cornerstone. They're all down here in center field, and these guys could come up pretty quickly and be pretty good. I'm really excited about Travis Swaggerty. I think he's going to be a very good player. But they also have Brian Reynolds and Lolo Sanchez, who are young and have a lot of room to grow. I think that these guys could come up and be very good players, and that's part of the reason why I think that it's a good idea to finally move on from Gregory Polanco. Now, this game gave Gregory Polanco some favorable statistics. They say that he is an 80 overall with B potential. So it's hard to pass up on that. It's hard to move on from that. But the thing about it is, being a Pirates fan, or if you know anything about the Pirates, Gregory Polanco has been the biggest disappointment that the franchise has seen in quite a while. I mean, Gregory Polanco was called up, he burst onto the scene, and then he disappointed. And then he hasn't progressed since the fact that he came up. a couple years ago. He just hasn't progressed. He sucks at base running. He's lazy in the outfield. He just could be so much better of a player if he had a better work ethic. So I think that that's part of why he could use a change of scenery. I think that if he went somewhere else, he would probably be pretty good because of the change of scenery. But they're committed to him. So for now, he's going to be our right fielder. But other guys like Melky Cabrera and Lonnie Chisenhall, who are our rotational players that the Pirates signed this year and are very good bats off the bench and even, decent fielding-wise, they're going to be rotating in at that position, and we're going to see if we can find a trade for Gregory Polanco, rehome him to a place that he could probably develop better and get something in return that would help this team, because I think that would be a mutually beneficial trade. I think that he would benefit by having a new, a change of scenery, and I think that we would benefit by getting rid of somebody that has been kind of, failing to develop the way that he should have whenever he was first called up. So that's what the team looks like. Let's go ahead over and look at the way that the pitching rotation is oriented. As I showed you guys, Chris Archer, the number 1, Jamison Tyone, the number 2. These two could be flip-flop, and in real life they have Jamison Tyone as the number 1, but that's not a big deal to me. I pitched well with both of them, and Jamison Tyone will eventually take over that number 1 spot. Then Trevor Williams, Joe Musgrove, and Chad Kuhl. I think that's a very good, solid top 5 rotation. And then in terms of pitching, Liriano obviously is the long relief pitcher because he used to be a starter. He has the stamina for it. And then in terms of closer, Felipe Vasquez, Keone Kela used to be a closer, so he'll be a setup. He might come in and close out some games for us as well. Richard Rodriguez is the best overall out of our relievers. Other than Vasquez will come in as another setup. And then the middle relief pitchers, those duties will be split between Kyle Crick Santana, Tyler Lyons, and Michael Feliz. And then we go ahead and look at our lineups real quick. These aren't set for sure. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do these things. But for now, I believe I'm going to have Starling Marte lead off. This is another decision, like I said, the whole time here, that I'm doing stuff that the Pirates should do, and they don't. Starling Marte is their fastest player. Period. End of story. He is a decent base runner. They don't let him lead off as much as he should. So I think I'm going to let him lead off in most of these lineups, actually all of these lineups, and try to get him on base because he's their best base runner. I think that he should be the leadoff guy. Even though he's a really good 3-hole hitter, I think that we have the guys that can fill those spots in Corey Dickerson, who's a very good clutch batter, and then Jung Ho Gong, who is a very good power hitter. I think that those positions can be well and truly filled by those two players, and that frees up Starling Marte to be the leadoff guy that this team needs him to be. And we need to develop him into the leadoff guy because he has that speed, and we need to get runs by utilizing Starling Marte. And then in addition to that, Adam Frazier, a good batter both ways, and has a little bit of speed. So I think that he's a good 2-hole hitter, and you'll see that in, I believe, every single one of these. This top 4 pretty much stays the same. It's going to be Marte, Frazier, Dickerson, and Young. And then most of the changes you'll see happen in the bottom half of the lineup, because these ones change a little bit based on the DH and based on who's coming in at what position. The catcher will obviously change between Cervelli and Diaz whenever we go from lefty to righty, because Diaz is very good against lefties, and I do want to rotate him in as much as possible because he's younger, and I want to start developing him. He's got a good arm, and I think that he could potentially take over that catcher spot. So you'll see this bottom half of the rotation change up a little bit, but for the most part, you're going to see Polanco for now in right field until we decide to move him. Or if we decide to move him. You're going to see Josh Bell down here. You're going to see Cervelli/Diaz. And then the DH is going to rotate between Melky or Chisenhall or any of those guys. And then we will also see Kevin Newman, the shortstop, kind of change through the lineup a little bit in different spots. He doesn't have enough power to really, be in any specific position. So I think that the only place to fit him is either at the end of the lineup or in a leadoff position, like the 5th spot or the 1st spot. And he does have decent speed. So we'll see this bottom half of the lineup change a little bit here and there. But for the most part, this is what it is. And I actually need to fix this. I don't know why Jason Martin is in the MLB. That's one thing I need to fix, but that's how the team stacks up for now. I think that we have a very good starting pitching staff. We have a very good bullpen. we could potentially add to the bullpen a little bit. We're looking to potentially make a move at the catcher position. At all of the infield positions, I think we're pretty locked up, but we just have to decide who's going to play where. Where's Jung Ho Gung going to play? Kevin Newman, who's going to play shortstop, who's going to play third, who's going to play second. And then once we iron all those things out, I think that the infield is very good, and we have a lot of potential there. And then the outfield, I want to stick with Dickerson, and I want to stick with Marte, but we have to decide what we want to do with Gregory Polanco. So, as I've said in the video earlier, let me know down below what your comments are, what you think we should do with those specific players. Gregory Polanco, Cervelli, Jung Ho Gung. Let me know what you guys think we should do. Subscribe to the channel for more. Leave a like down below if you're interested in this franchise and you're excited to get this up and running. And as always, like I said, leave your comments, leave your feedback, anything down below in the comment section, and I'll be happy to reply to you guys. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great day.